My name is Musi and welcome to another episode of the Musi Vlog. Today's video is a little bit different. The reason I'm making today's video is because Kevin, somewhere around the world, found my video and wrote to me, asked me a question. Is it worth it to get something like a Sony a7R Mark II, or is it better to get something that's, more entry level like the a6000 Sony? So this video is to answer that question and hopefully any question that comes about camera gear from this point on. So ever since I was a little kid, I always liked to buy stuff. If something new came out, I was looking at it, I was looking at my thing, I'm like, it does look better. It's not just about looks, but it sounds like it solves some of the problems that I've been facing with this thing. And I would eventually go buy it. Sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes I bought a new product that looked exactly the same as the old one and there were no improvements, it was just a newer model. And for those things, it was a waste of money. But there's no way to find out unless you actually go and buy the thing and compare it to what you had it before. So to answer that question of is it better to buy an entry-level camera when you're starting out versus something more professional like a full-frame mirrorless camera, instead of obviously like a smaller sensor than a full frame, it depends on what you want to do. If you want to do this personal and you want to learn photography, maybe you want to start shooting some weddings or getting started with like real estate photography or even maybe with product photography. If you want to do it for passion and oh my god, I love photography, I want to explore it, I would suggest getting an entry-level camera, learning the ins and outs of photography, because photography is not just about knowing the settings on your camera and what they can do, but it's knowing those settings and what they can do and you coming up with creative ways in using them to make a picture tell a story. Now video is a different story, because video you can get away with a mobile quality video, like something like the iPhone 12 Pro is going to shoot amazing video that even if the quality is not great, even if the stability, the colors are too much, people are still going to watch it. And even photos today, they've become so good compared to like what they were a couple of years ago, but to a trained eye, they'll be able to see this thing right away. Video, not as much, because video you have so many frames coming at you in 1 second, at least 24 frames. As where a picture, you just have one. So unfortunately, the human brain is going to look at the picture and be like, oh yeah, look, it's so sharp. Oh yeah, look, there's no depth of field. Oh, the depth of field looks fake. But on a video, you can kind of get away with it. One of the biggest things that will make a difference is not just the camera. Is it a full frame sensor or a crop sensor? But I truly think it's going to come down to these guys. There goes my ND filter. But lenses, this is really the game changer. So when I started getting nicer lenses for my camera, I started seeing the quality of the pictures really improve. And I started out with a Sony a5100, something like that, back in like 6 or 7 years ago. I had an f1.8 50mm and a 28mm f2. And I went around and I did a lot of street photography. Some portraits, some pets, some nature, some architecture, and I kind of explored everything, and I learned what that camera was good for, what it was not, and I really wanted to move to a full frame sensor, primarily because I like to shoot wide, and it seemed that every time you buy a lens it says 50, you put it on the camera, it ends up being something like an 85 because of the crop sensor, and I find that the quality of the picture when it was either low light or something, it wasn't that great. Like it got to the point where I was taking pictures and I was editing them in Lightroom and Photoshop, but I had to do so much work to brighten up the image if I shot it a little bit by mistake, underexposed or overexposed. And when I switched to the Sony a7R Mark II, which is a full frame sensor, this thing over here, I was able to see the world in a different view, definitely way more expensive view, because what you don't think of is what kind of computer and storage do you need to edit photos from a camera like this, because this guy shoots 85 megabyte raw photos. Every single picture I take on this thing is 85 megabytes. So if you're doing like an exposure bracket or something that shoots like 3 pictures, You just shot like 250 megabytes. This is like 250 megabytes. The last shoot I did, it was a product photography shoot for sunglasses and vision glasses. We shot 300 photos. I have 12.7 gigs of pictures on my computer. So you have to think of storage. If you're gonna get a camera that's like bigger frame, better quality, it comes with other like baggages too. You know, you need to get a faster writing memory card, a bigger memory card. If you kind of have backups for your work, you're gonna have to buy hard drives because you're gonna be going through terabytes and terabytes like this. I have easy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hard drives that have been being used since like maybe end of 2017, and these are like 6 terabyte cards. You know, 6 terabyte, it's a lot of memory. So I think it depends on what you're trying to do and where you're at in your career. When I started with the A5100, and then I got an Olympus OMD EM5 Mark II, I think, and I even had a Fujifilm X-T100 Pro, if that is a model, but there was a Pro in the name. And then I got the Sony A7R Mark I, and later on I got the A7R Mark II, and this has been with me for the last like 3 to 4 years, and I was down to change it, honestly, but get what, like it's already at like 42 megapixels. It's got great dynamic range, great color quality, can shoot RAW. It's got everything that I need. I mean, sure, an A7R Mark V is going to have a bigger battery, it's going to have a touch screen, it's going to have different knobs, but in terms of image quality, it's not that far off, you know, so it didn't make sense for me. But definitely the next camera is going to be one that shoots photos and videos at the same time, because I shoot video just as much as I shoot photo, and instead of having 2 cameras, I'd rather have 1 camera. And yes, that means I'm not going to have a B cam, but when I'm traveling around, I only need 1, not 2. So that's how I'm making my decision moving on to the next camera, which is probably going to be the Sony Alpha 1. There's a lot of things that you could do, but I think it's going to come down to learning to use your tool, figuring out what it's good at and what it's not, and kind of become creative with your tool. But as a rule of thumb, I wouldn't suggest investing in a very expensive camera setup unless you have the money to spend. If you have the money to buy 5 of it and it won't make a dent in your pocket, then absolutely go get the A7R Mark II. But if that's not your case, get something that's an entry-level camera. Get a couple of lenses that are good, shallow depth of field, f1.8, f1.4, get a wide angle lens, get a telephoto lens, so that you have the variety of, you know, different length. You know, it's a zoom, it's a wide angle, it's a telephoto, macro, even all those things. And I think even if you, just one second. And I think even if you like, buy some lights, even if they're cheap. I have like a cheap ass light that's like right here on the floor, that I use sometimes to like light up my things. I hope this solved your question, Kevin, and to anyone else trying to buy a camera, I'm not sure, should they get the cheap one or the expensive one that everybody's talking about, because they're just influencers and you're that poor guy or girl that's sitting at the shitty end of the stick of not knowing what to do. You can return cameras, by the way, so give it a try. Peace. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, also give it a thumbs up because it's free.